Hi, welcome to the podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start conversation on block 6, Educational System in India, and unit 17, Education, Expansion and Growth. And our subtopic is Vedic period. Let us first study the educational system during the Vedic period. Differences in opinion exist as to the exact date of this period. According to some, it could have extended between 1500 and 500 BC. The contribution of this era towards the generation of knowledge and emphasis on learning is immense. It is claimed that during the early part of the Vedic period, education was not restricted for the male members of society, and women too got equal opportunities regarding education. Women scholars of this period like Vishwarana, Atreyi, Maitri, Gargi, Lopamundra, and many others are a testimony to this. However, later on during this period, education for women lost its popularity. Education has started acquiring a formal nature during this period. Education was imparted at centers of learning called gurukuls, ashrams, parishads, etc. Young students were sent from home to residential schools where they stayed with the guru or teacher and his family. Education was imparted for years together. Teaching learning started following an initiation process into the world of education called Upanayan. Education during this period mainly aimed at achieving salvation. It aimed at balanced development of the pupils and their physical, moral, intellectual, social and cultural developments were taken care of. Takshila, Patliputra, Varanasi became some of the renowned seats of learning. The teacher used to be an expert in both theory as well as practice. The teacher was highly rewarded for his knowledge and integrity. He was supposed to be the epitome of erudition, character, morality, righteousness, and nobility. He was therefore considered to be the representative of God. He was wholly responsible for the education and general welfare of his students. Although the concept of guru, dakshina, or fees was there, but gurus or teachers taught not for the sake of money, but because it was their sacred duty. Teaching was thus not an occupation in the strict sense, but rather a duty discharged toward society. The students were supposed to be hardworking and refrain from a life of luxury. They were also supposed to lead a life of chastity, be humble, and be fully obedient to their teacher. The concept of working at the teacher's place while learning prevailed in this period. This made the pupils not only educated but also adept in the skills required in day-to-day life. Education was individualized and each learner was well cared for by the teacher. They spent their time in gaining knowledge and skills. but also had to cultivate the teachers and tend his cattle, beg for alms, and perform the task assigned to him by the teacher. The curriculum was rich and diversified with components such as mathematics, languages, grammar, literature, warfare for the Kshatriyas or warriors, administration, scriptures, astrology, astronomy, etc. Stress was laid on character development. Thus, as underlined by Singh, education aimed at moral development, spiritual consciousness, and was also humanitarian with salvation as the ultimate destination. There were rigid rules to regulate the conduct of pupils. These rules pertained to hygiene, morality, religious performances, etc. The students following the initiation ceremony would put on the sacred thread and spend 14 years away from their home in the seclusion of an ashram or gurukul. Teaching learning were mainly through oral activities, listening, contemplating, internalizing, reciting were the emphasized over reading and writing. Even the literature of the then popular language Sanskrit has its origin in an oral tradition and gave rise to the holy text of the Veda. Panini developed Sanskrit grammar, and since then a lot of literary contributions were made, such as the Shastras, epics, lyric poetry, stylized drama, etc. Education during this period was not for the masses, but only for the elites of the society. Only the members of the upper caste, namely Kshatriya and Brahmins, were followed or allowed to avail the opportunities regarding education. Women's education too did not receive its due share. The entire system of education was entrusted to the Brahmins. Education for the other classes was informal, unorganized, and neglected. This was a drawback of the educational system prevailing then. However, the scholarly contributions made during this period are so rich that they have acquired the status of classics. Another important feature is that the students were like the members of the teacher's family, and although the concept of Guru Dakshina, that is the fees, happened to be there, but knowledge was held to be too sacred to be commodified for sale and profit making. Here we want to wind up this session. Thank you very much for choosing this podcast.